Once upon a time, in the peaceful African village of Okuta, lived a young girl named Ada. Ada was the daughter of a wealthy and respected man named Obi. She was known throughout the village for her kindness, beauty, and hardworking nature. But despite all the love she received from the people of Okuta, Ada's life was not as perfect as it seemed. After Ada's mother had passed away when she was young, her father, Obi, remarried. His new wife, Nneka, was beautiful on the outside, but had a heart filled with jealousy and wickedness. Nneka despised Ada. She saw Ada as an obstacle to the life she wanted. Obi loved Ada deeply, and Nneka couldn't stand that. She wanted all of Obi's wealth and attention for herself, and she knew that as long as Ada was in the way, she would never have full control of the household. Nneka's jealousy soon grew into a plan to get rid of Ada once and for all. One afternoon, as the sun set and the village began to quiet, Nneka called Ada to her room. Ada entered hesitantly, knowing her stepmother rarely spoke to her unless there was trouble. "Ada," Nneka began, her voice sickeningly sweet, "you are of age now, and it is time for you to marry." Ada's eyes widened in surprise. She had not expected this. "Marry?" she asked, confused. "But stepmother, I don't even know anyone. Who am I to marry?" Nneka's smile grew sharper, and her eyes glinted with malice. "There is a man in the village, Jide. He is a good man for you." Ada's heart sank. She had never heard of this man, Jide, before. "I don't know him," she protested softly. "Why should I marry someone I've never met?" Nneka's voice hardened. "It's already been decided. Your father agrees. You will marry Jide, and that's final." Ada knew her father trusted Nneka too much. Though Obi loved her, he had no idea about the darkness in Nneka's heart. And Ada had no way of refusing. Her father had agreed to the marriage, and in their culture, the father's word was law. That night, as Ada lay on her bed, her thoughts spun in confusion and sadness. Why was her stepmother so eager to marry her off to this stranger? Something didn't feel right. The next day, Ada went to the market, hoping to learn more about the mysterious Jide. She asked around, speaking to the women in the village. They whispered and exchanged nervous glances before answering. "Jide," one woman said, lowering her voice. "He lives in a small hut by the river. He's poor, Ada. He has no family, no wealth, and no land. Many people feel sorry for him." Ada's heart sank even further. Why would her stepmother want her to marry a poor man? It made no sense. She couldn't help but feel that Nneka had some wicked reason for pushing this marriage. But what Ada didn't know was that Jide was not who he appeared to be. Jide was, in fact, a prince from a faraway kingdom. When he was a child, his father, the king, had sent him away to protect him from enemies who sought to destroy their royal family. Jide had grown up in Okuta, living a humble life, hiding his true identity until the time came for him to return to his kingdom. But even Jide did not know how soon that time would come. The day of the wedding arrived. The villagers gathered in the town square, curious about the strange match between Ada, the daughter of a wealthy man, and Jide, the poor villager. Ada stood before the crowd, dressed in a simple wrap, her heart heavy with sadness. She had never imagined her life would turn out like this. Marrying a man she did not know, a man she did not love. As Jide approached, Ada saw him for the first time. He was tall, strong, and handsome, with kind eyes that seemed to carry a mystery. But despite his appearance, Ada could not shake her unease. She had no idea what kind of man he truly was. As they exchanged vows, Ada felt a strange sensation in her heart. There was something about Jide, something hidden beneath the surface, that made her feel both curious and wary. But before she could dwell on her thoughts, the ceremony ended and Ada became Jide's wife. The villagers clapped and cheered, though many of them whispered behind their hands. Why would Ada marry a poor man like Jide? They wondered. Surely, there's something strange about all this. The newly married couple began their walk back to Jide's small hut by the river. Ada's mind was filled with confusion and sadness. She could not believe her life had changed so quickly. But just as they neared the edge of the village, a loud commotion broke out behind them. A group of men dressed in fine robes rode into the village on horseback. Their clothes shimmered in the sunlight, and their presence commanded attention. The villagers gasped and moved aside as the men approached. One of the men dismounted and walked up to Jide. He knelt before him, his head bowed in respect. "Your Highness," the man said, his voice full of reverence, "we have found you. Your father, the king, is gravely ill. It is time for you to return to the kingdom and claim your rightful place as the heir to the throne." The crowd fell silent. Ada's heart pounded in her chest. What was happening? Jide was a prince? Jide turned to Ada, his expression soft and sad. "It's true," he said quietly. "I am not the poor man you thought I was. I was sent here as a child to protect me from my father's enemies. But now, I must return to my kingdom to become king. And you, Ada, are my queen." Ada could hardly believe her ears. She had married a prince? Her mind spun with questions and emotions. How could this be? Just hours ago, she thought she was marrying a poor villager, and now she was a queen? Nneka, who had been watching from a distance, was furious. Her plan had backfired in the worst way possible. She had intended to marry Ada off to a poor man to get rid of her, but instead, Ada had become royalty. Her jealousy burned hotter than ever. But Nneka was not ready to give up. She would not let Ada live happily ever after. If Ada was to become a queen, Nneka would do everything in her power to ruin her. As Ada and Jide prepared to leave for his kingdom, Nneka began plotting her next move. She knew she couldn't defeat Ada alone, so she sought out a powerful ally. Nneka traveled to the neighboring village of Anicho, where an old woman named Ekeoma lived. Ekeoma was known throughout the land for her dark magic and ability to control the spirits. Nneka knew that if anyone could help her bring down Ada, it was Ekeoma. When Nneka arrived at Ekeoma's hut, the old woman was sitting outside, stirring a pot of herbs over a fire. Her eyes were cloudy with age, but they gleamed with knowledge and power. "What brings you here, Nneka?" Ekeoma asked in her raspy voice. "I know you're not here for a friendly visit." Nneka smiled coldly. "I need your help, Ekeoma. There's a girl in Okuta, Ada. She has taken everything from me. I want to destroy her." Ekeoma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "And what do you offer in return for my help?" Nneka's smile faded, but she knew she had no choice. "I offer you wealth, gold, jewelry, anything you desire. Help me ruin Ada's life, and it's all yours." Ekeoma chuckled softly. "Very well, Nneka. But remember, dark magic always comes at a price." With that, Ekeoma reached into her pot and pulled out a small vial of shimmering liquid. She handed it to Nneka. "This potion will curse Ada," Ekeoma explained. "She will be haunted by nightmares and sickness. Her body will grow weak, and soon, she will be too ill to stand by Jide's side." Nneka's eyes gleamed with excitement as she took the vial. "Thank you, Ekeoma. Ada won't know what hit her." Back in Jide's kingdom, Ada was adjusting to her new life as queen. The palace was grand and beautiful, but Ada couldn't shake the feeling of unease that followed her everywhere she went. The halls were filled with whispers, and the air seemed heavy with tension. Jide's father, the king, had passed away shortly after their arrival, and Jide was now preparing for his coronation. But not everyone in the kingdom was happy about it. Some of the nobles believed that Jide had been away for too long and was unfit to rule. They whispered of rebellion and plotted to overthrow him. Ada tried to be strong for Jide, but soon, the curse began to take hold. Night after night, Ada was plagued by terrible nightmares. She saw shadows chasing her, dark figures lurking in every corner. Each morning, she woke up drenched in sweat, her body growing weaker with each passing day. At first, Jide didn't notice the change in Ada. He was too busy preparing for his coronation and dealing with the kingdom's affairs. But as Ada's health worsened, he grew concerned. One morning, Jide found Ada sitting by the window, her face pale and her hands trembling. "Ada, what's wrong?" he asked, worry filling his voice. Ada shook her head, tears filling her eyes. "I don't know," she whispered. "I feel like something is haunting me. I can't sleep, I can't eat, and I feel weaker every day." Jide's heart ached at the sight of his beloved wife suffering. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know what. Determined to find a solution, Jide called upon the kingdom's healer, an old man named Dike, to examine Ada. Dike entered the room, his face grave as he looked at Ada. He placed his hands on her forehead, muttering an incantation under his breath. After a few moments, he stepped back, his expression troubled. "There is dark magic at work here," Dyke said solemnly. "Your wife has been cursed, my king. This is no ordinary illness." Jide's eyes widened in shock. "Cursed? By who?" "I do not know," Dyke replied, "but this curse is strong. It will take great power to break it." As Jide tried to make sense of Dyke's words, Ada suddenly remembered Nneka. Her stepmother had always hated her, and now it seemed clear that Nneka had followed them, determined to ruin her life even from afar. "We must go back to Okuta," Ada said, her voice trembling with fear and determination. "Nneka is behind this. I know she is." Jide hesitated. He didn't want to leave the kingdom in such a fragile state, but he couldn't ignore Ada's plea. If Nneka was responsible for the curse, they had to stop her before it was too late. The next morning, Jide and Ada set out for Okuta, accompanied by a small group of trusted guards. The journey was long and difficult, but Ada's determination kept her going. She knew they had to reach Nneka before the curse consumed her completely. When they finally arrived in Okuta, Ada immediately sought out Nneka. She found her stepmother in their old house, sitting at the table with a smug smile on her face. "I've been expecting you," Nneka said, her voice dripping with malice. "Did you really think you could escape me, Ada?" Ada's hands clenched into fists, her body trembling with anger and exhaustion. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded. "What have I ever done to you?" Nneka laughed coldly. "You took everything from me. Your father's love, his wealth. It was all supposed to be mine. But you stood in my way. Now I'll make sure you lose everything, just like I did." Jide stepped forward, his sword drawn. "This ends now, Nneka. Lift the curse, or face the consequences." But Nneka's eyes gleamed with wickedness. "You think you can stop me? The curse is beyond your control. Soon, Ada will be too weak to fight, and your kingdom will fall." Before Jide could respond, the door to the house burst open. Ekeoma stood there, her dark magic swirling around her like a storm. "Nneka isn't alone," she hissed. "You'll have to face both of us." A fierce battle erupted in the small house. Jide fought off Ekeoma's magic while Ada, weakened but determined, confronted Nneka. Their swords clashed, and the air filled with the sounds of struggle and fury. With a final surge of strength, Ada knocked Nneka's sword from her hand, sending it clattering to the ground. "It's over, Nneka," Ada said, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. But Nneka sneered, refusing to back down. "This isn't over," she spat. "I will never stop until I see you fall." Jide, having defeated Ekeoma, rushed to Ada's side. Together, they stood over Nneka, their faces set with resolve. "You'll never harm us again," Jide said coldly. "Take her away." The guards quickly seized Nneka and Ekeoma, dragging them away to face justice for their crimes. As the dust settled, Ada felt the weight of the curse lifting. The nightmares were gone, and her strength slowly returned. Jide took her hand, his eyes filled with love and relief. "You were right, Ada," he said softly. "Together, we are stronger than anything." Ada smiled, her heart full of hope. She knew there would be more challenges ahead, but with Jide by her side, she was ready to face them. Together, they would build a future, free from the shadows of the past. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.